Alrighty. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for WIS Next Gen Presents Discover Sports Tech. It's important to note that although your faces are not public and we'll not see your names, please know that this webinar is being recorded. Women in Sports Tech is a global nonprofit organization with the mission to drive growth opportunities for women in the sports tech industry and introduce students to the wide and exciting variety of careers in the sports tech business. We hope you'll jump onto our new website where you can see our entire WIS Next Gen series of panels and as well as much more content from other leaders in the business. We also offer a summer internship program for college and grad students called the WIS Fellowship Program. Check out this as well. We want to give students as much exposure and experience as possible so that you can join us in this exciting business. On today's WIS Next Gen webinar, our goal is to inspire young women like all of you to continue the STEAM classes you love and encourage your continued participation in the sports you're passionate about at the same time. Today, we have our WIS Next Gen team along with Jess David, Marketing Manager at Intel Sports and Women in Sports Tech team member. Jess, we are super thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. So just really quick, we'll introduce our WIS team. Shivy, if you'd like to go first.
Of course. Hi, everybody. I'm Shivy. I'm a junior at North Reading High School in Massachusetts and one of the co-founders of this initiative. Currently, I'm also the founder of an engineering design program called We Engineer Innovation, and I'm a club softball player as well. And I'm really excited to continue spreading the concept of sports and sports tech to everybody who's viewing this webinar today.
Great. Thanks, Shivy. Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia Hanowich. I'm a WIS team member, and I work at Catapult Sports, which is a sports performance analytics company. So I was on our business development team there, and I just transitioned to marketing as of this week. So yeah, team marketing.
Awesome. And I'm Sydney Dodson. I am a student at the University of San Francisco Sport Management Master's Program, where I currently work as the social media specialist. I'm also a WIS 2020 fellow for this past summer, where I just wrapped up an internship with Zoom. So welcome, everyone. Please feel free to submit questions in the chat as we'll have a Q&A portion of the webinar later. We're very excited to dive into the questions and hear more about your journey, Jess, and get your advice for the students joining us here today.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Sydney.
Yeah.
Echoing Sydney, really happy to have you here today, Jess. And I know Jess well through being a WIS team member, and she's done incredible work for the organization, and just following her career path in sports tech and the impact she's making is really impressive. So I'm excited to learn, the backstory behind all that.
Thank you.
So we'll dive into the questions, and the first section will kind of, like I said, we'll focus on that background and how you got to where you are today. So our first question is, could you introduce yourself and then talk a bit more about the field you work in and how you're inspired to pursue a career in sports tech?
Sure. Yeah, thank you all for joining. And thanks again for the invite. Always love talking to you ladies. Today, I am the marketing manager at Intel Sports. If you're familiar with the Intel chips that are probably in your computer right now, that's the Intel I'm talking about. And yes, we have a sports department. So I work with our partners over at the NBA, the NFL, European soccer, to help bring our volumetric game highlights, it's called TrueView, onto linear broadcasts, digital properties, and social media. It's a really cool, completely 3D model of the game, a live game. I entered sports tech through my previous role, actually, as a director of marketing at 76 Capital, which is a venture capital firm here in the Philly area, focused on sports tech, esports, sports betting. I spent 4 years there doing all things marketing, design, events, investor relations, you name it, including managing our athlete venture group, which was an investment group for professional athletes to help them transition from life on the field into business. And that was the sports-focused investment opportunity that helped land me on the Forbes 30 Under 30 last year. So prior to that, I spent several years in graphic design, marketing, public relations, communications for both a design agency for a few years and in government for about 6 years. And before that, I went to James Madison University in Virginia on a scholarship for the College of Business, and ended up graduating with a dual major in graphic design and photography. So totally perfect definition of mixed left and right brain.
Awesome. Did you know that you wanted to go into the sports industry when you were in college?
I actually didn't even think that it was an opportunity. It never crossed my mind that there were opportunities in sports, which is why I'm like more than thrilled at what you guys are doing to help introduce to young women that there are actually opportunities. It's a business. It's not just the game on TV. There are people behind the scenes making all this happen.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And what has your journey taught you about sports tech as a broad field?
Yeah, when you sent me this question, my mind went into like 10 different directions, because you nailed it. It is super broad. And that to me just means that there are endless opportunities. Again, like that I had no idea existed when I was in school. So my career trajectory was not linear at all, but marketing and design were common threads that helped me jump from industry to industry. So there's really two ways of coming at it, in my opinion. If you love analytics or sales or finance, for me, it was marketing. Every type of business needs those skills, so you can be an asset to quite a few people. Conversely, if you're unsure about what you're good at, but you're passionate about one sport in particular, my example, of course, is hockey, then there are just so many roles within the business of hockey, just as there are in other businesses. So if you want to try your hand at a sales internship, or you want to see if you're good at social media marketing, you can try all of those things within the sport that you love.
Great. And then what sports did you play when you were younger? And how did those experiences impact your work life today?
Forgive me if you've heard this joke before, Lyd. I played basketball and softball until I stopped growing at 5 feet tall. So then I just started working. Then I got a job and started getting internships in, I started working as a tutor and a babysitter, and then I eventually started working in the field that I was interested in, which was communications and PR. But I would honestly say that both sports and going to art school in college prepared me for like things that I never thought I would be ready for personally. Gets you out of your comfort zone. You work with a team of people that have different skill sets and personalities, just like you do at work. Taking risks, sometimes failing publicly. I had this vision of like taking that shot, with 1 second to go and missing in front of your friends and family, and being able to accept harsh criticism. Those are all things that you'll need throughout your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a good point too, just learning how to work with different personalities, and it's definitely a good skill to have. Excellent. Maybe
Awesome.
we'll transition us in these questions.
Those were some amazing answers. I did have a specific question about something you mentioned, just from my point of view.
Sure.
You mentioned you went to art school and you were doing design and photography. How do you think art has correlated with tech, especially in recent years, with like STEAM coming in, replacing STEM and stuff?
Yeah. Your question is so timely. Yesterday and today, I had conversations with two of my coworkers around the impact that AI could have on creative storytelling and videography. There's no doubt that sports and a lot of like design positions, I would say the arts field in general, needs that human touch. It was funny because we could really only get to like a certain point that you would say, yeah, AI can solve for these problems, until you need a human creative eye. But they work hand in hand. So now it's, can we train AI to have that similar problem solving skill set that I would have if I wanted to see something done in a certain way? I'm speaking strictly from this experience that I had yesterday and today, which is why I'm just so surprised that your question knew exactly what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because I've noticed a lot of people or a lot of my friends who are into art don't exactly consider that as a region of technology or a region of future in careers and stuff like that. But especially like design and how that interweaves with tech, that's something I've always found super interesting.
Yeah. I actually started in computer information systems because I was interested in computers and tech. I'm not a painter. I managed to get a dual Bachelor of Fine Arts without ever taking a painting class, and found a way to make like marketing, communications, and graphic design cross between my like creativity and love for technology.
Right, that's so cool. And then I guess bringing it a little bit back to teenagers and girls in college and high school, what classes and extracurriculars do you think really prepared you for your career and where you are right now?
Yeah, another really good question because I took mostly business extracurriculars in high school. And I, again, will kind of joke, but it was the best decision I've ever made because it's where I met my husband. So one of my finance classes is where I met my husband. That's reason number one. And reason number two is because I was able to get a scholarship for computer information systems because I had so much experience in those business courses. I took those because those were what interested me the most out of what was available. And I was only able to take one graphic design class, even though I taught myself Adobe programs in my spare time when I was younger. Feel like I didn't learn as much and was pretty uninspired because there was only one course option. So I wish there were more opportunities back then, but now there's full technical programs dedicated to graphic design.
Right. And that certainly leads into the next question, which is how do you kind of deal with an uninspiring class or an uninspiring coach or teacher and take charge of what you want to do and explore?
Yeah, that was that class specifically was interesting because I would come in and, you're in high school, you like roll your eyes that you're learning something you already know and you feel like you really want to get excited about something. And I can't blame that course specifically for leaving me uninspired and going into business in college, but it did, I would say, deter me for at least a year. So I, freshman year went in, like I said, at computer information systems, but I was still doing graphic design on the side. And my husband said to me, like, what are you doing? This is what you're doing in your free time. It's what you should be doing full time. So my advice, if you're feeling uninspired, is really to just surround yourself with trustworthy and inspiring friends and family, because every tough decision I've ever made, I owe to their support and encouragement.
Yeah, of course. And I guess another question I just had off of that as well was when you're talking about taking classes and extracurriculars, especially in college, I guess a lot of girls tend to go towards what they're good at rather than what we're going to take risks in, just because that's something, I guess, self-esteem isn't always really promoted at a young age. What would be kind of your advice for girls who want to go into something but don't think they have enough background or enough credentials to actually take a class in that?
It's a really good question because, like I said, I avoided painting because I just knew, well, I don't know. I thought I was going to be terrible, so I didn't even try. But I would say if you have the opportunity to practice in a place that you do feel comfortable, whether it's by yourself or with a smaller group of friends, just talk it out. Get it out of your head and out into the open, because other people might have other solutions to your problem that maybe you didn't come up with. And if it's a course specifically that you're interested in, there's maybe an ally or a friend, male or female, that can kind of help go through that journey with you. You never want to feel like you're doing it alone. So if you can find somebody who, you can kind of bounce ideas off of and go through the course together, even better.
That's amazing advice. I've never heard anybody say that, like really surrounding yourself with allies to take yourself out of uncomfortable situations. That's cool. And then I guess that leads into the next question as well. What are some goals that young girls looking to go into your field should really set for themselves at this age?
Yeah, I mean, at this age, you should just be trying, like, I hate to say it because I hated reading when I was in high school, but I think it was because I was not reading the books that I really cared about. Like, learn about things that you enjoy learning about. I'll read book after book now about topics that I picked out, not something that somebody told me I had to do and write a 3-page paper about it. So really try to read and practice and discover some of the things that pique your interest. One of the things I'll mention later on too is to get bored. Nobody gets bored anymore. And that's where creativity comes from.
That's super interesting.
I'll elaborate on that later.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I guess we'll hand it over to Sid.
Awesome.
Cool.
I'm really interested to hear more about that getting bored thing, because it's so true with all the technology and things that we have going around. But like you said, we'll get to it later. What are the 3 biggest things you wish you knew in high school that you know now?
Sid, thanks for asking, because you made me think about this question for like 15 minutes. First, I would say create your own story. It's important to have mentors to look up to, for sure, but nobody knows all the answers, even if it looks like they do. Even I don't have all the answers, and no 2 stories are alike. So follow your passions, get advice from people you trust, but trust yourself in the end. Second, I don't have to say this to my old self, because I'm dating myself, but social media wasn't really around back then. But don't get distracted by social media. That was one thing that wasn't mainstream just yet, but is taking up a lot of people's spare time right now. And this is where I want to elaborate on getting bored. Like, think about how many times you were sitting around, and if your phone wasn't dead, you just defaulted to endless scrolling. Like, again, don't want to sound like a dinosaur, but that is where ideas and creativity and problem solving comes from. If you don't get bored, you'll never have a problem to solve, because you always have like that show on Netflix or Instagram on your phone. And I'm guilty of it too. I find myself, I set timers now to stop myself at a certain point. Use the tools that you have. And once that timer goes off, I set it down and I look around and I go, okay, like, what should I be doing instead? And that's where, you have endless creativity, or even just getting things done that make you feel good and healthy. So don't get distracted. And third, for sure, I wish I could go back and tell myself in high school to think long term. High school doesn't last forever. The challenges you're facing now will pass, and stay focused on the future. It probably seems like foreign to think about, but there's life way, way, way beyond that you could be not just honing skills for now, but focusing some of that attention away from any sort of negativity or whatever to make sure you get where you want to go.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, especially about your second point. It's like discipline is so important, because the society right now can definitely shake and knock your confidence. And it's important that we don't let anyone our life,
I love that.
Not okay. So sports, it's a male dominated industry. What is a challenge you have experienced as a woman in the workplace?
Yeah, good question. I mentioned earlier that I had to stop playing basketball because I was too short, and it's fun to make fun of myself now in that respect. But as a woman looking young and I'm very small, it's often prompted people to overlook me, like literally look above me and scan the room, and figuratively, until I could prove them wrong. In some cases, people will be inappropriate, and you have to choose whether you're going to prove them wrong or correct them or do something about it, if they're even worth your time.
Right.
Usually they're not, so you can just try to ignore it and move on. Or in a business case, ask a male ally for support. which I've had to do many, many times. At every place that I've worked, I've had somebody who I knew as a friend or an ally that either saw something that was happening and said something without me asking, or made it clear to me when I first started that job, like, I'm here for you. I know what's going to happen. If anything, I know what you're going through. So to be able to identify those people, and they're not as rare as you think. You just have to talk to them.
Yeah. Allies are good because everyone needs that support. Doesn't matter where, when, how. It's definitely necessary in growing and working with others, which is very important. How can girls identify what they want to do and boost their self-confidence to achieve those aspirations?
The two-parter. To identify what you like, here's what I'd ask. And if this were me, this is what I'd ask. What do you like to do in your free time? What books do you enjoy reading? And like I said, if you don't enjoy reading, you probably didn't find the right subject matter yet. Keep trying. Within sports specifically, what excites you? Is it athletic training, fan engagement, technology, something else? Something I thought of for this specifically was that job titles change. The jobs that you might be applying for, Shivy, in 10 years probably don't exist today. So don't necessarily plan your whole life, for that, except CEO. That for you will always exist.
Yeah.
But what are the topics that excite you that no matter, how you have to pivot within that industry, you're still excited to be there? And then to get confident, which is always something that we all struggle with, I'm sure. Learn as much as you can about something you enjoy learning about, and then practice. So when I was pirating Adobe programs in middle school, I was just practicing. I would follow blogs and tutorials and all of this. And at the time, sure, I was copying other people's work, but I was just a kid and I was just learning. And then eventually I found my own rhythm, I found my own style. And like I said, when I got to that course, I was kind of bored. So just keep practicing at the skill sets that you want to learn. We're so fortunate today to have so many free tutorials online to be able to practice like any of the skill sets that you think might pique your interest. Watch a 5-minute video. If you get bored, move on to the next one. And then for sure, work in as many internships as you can. I fully credit my business scholarship to the fact that I had so much work experience. They always told you it's like extracurriculars, that can be good too, but I had real world work experience, and they could see that, as you all know me very well by now, like I don't sit still. I'm always trying to get something done. And the real experience in an office or on site or wherever it may be is invaluable, because there are just some things you can't learn in school. I'd also recommend talking to people that have jobs that you admire. Whether you think it's something you'd want to do or not, you look at somebody's role, maybe entry to middle level, somebody who has time to mentor people, and say, how did you get there? Ask questions that can't be Googled. You hear me say, like Lid's hear me say this all the time. Ask questions that you can't find on the internet, that only somebody with that real world experience could tell you. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to give you a couple minutes, especially in quarantine, who can help you. And then I'll end with this because I talk a lot. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai, I think I'm pronouncing it right, that helps you identify your reason for being. Have you all heard of this? Okay, so it's called ikigai, and it helps you identify your reason for being. The 4 pillars are what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Not every job is always going to have all 4 of those, but each step of your journey should at least lead you one step closer to a place where all 4 of those overlap.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to figure that out now, and just at least throw myself in a direction, not necessarily the right direction, but a direction.
Seriously, any direction is a good direction, because you'll find, like you said, some things that you don't like about that role or working with certain types of people, and hopefully also find some things that you really do enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you
that's
for
a really
those.
good point. Like focusing on like being aware of when you're bored, because I think that's kind of what happened to me in my sales role. I was just really bored and I found myself like doing marketing related things in my spare time. And then finally it was a little bit longer than I wanted, but I was able to get on the marketing team. But
Yeah.
I guess recognize when you're bored and figure out where to go next. But
It's like when you got bored, Lyd, in that specific role, the way you problem solved was by executing in marketing. And so you knew that the next step in your career should be marketing. Otherwise, if you were just filled with busy work, you may not have come to that realization.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I was furloughed. It was kind of all during the quarantine, and setting up a lot of calls. And I remember I had a call with you during that time. It was really, really helpful to have that support.
That's amazing, because most people would look at being furloughed as the end of the world. You could take that really hard on yourself, but you found a way to pivot to something that was more interesting. And I'm excited to see what you discover in this role too, what you like, what you don't like. Should be fun.
Yeah. Definitely keep you posted.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll transition to the Q&A. So what we have is, could you describe what a day of your work at Intel Sports looks like?
Yeah. Cool. My days are a little bit more predictable these days, which is great. Part of the reason I pivoted away from venture capital towards the larger corporations, because I wanted a little bit more of the predictability and being able to schedule and have process. So my focus is on branding, communications, and partner marketing. So I'll spend some of the day working on drafting, editing, or proofing communications, anything that's going out to the public on behalf of Intel Sports. We do a lot of thought leadership, PR interviews, award submissions. That's on like the Intel Sports brand side. And then for the partners, we do kind of twofold, helping our partners show this content to fans and get them excited, whether it's through social media or their websites, tracking the success. So there's a little bit of analytics, but try to leave that to the hands of the professionals at this point. And then aside from content strategy with our partners, there's a little bit of selling too. How can we engage the partners on the business side to see that there's additional value? That's where the analytics really comes into play, so they can understand, as you know, the value of social media. Sydney was at Zoom for so long; she could probably rip off the numbers right now that I'm looking for, to be able to compare what our content performs as compared to baseline. So we're always looking to see what type of content fans like, how much they interacted with it, and then work with our content creators to make more of that.
Okay. And how is your team set up? How many people do you work with directly?
Yeah. So the marketing team is also with business development. So there's a small group there. And then we have a product team, an experience team, an engineering team, and a content team, if I didn't mention that. And so we're always, we stay in our little pods to execute, and then we come together as bigger groups, usually around each sport. So we have basketball, soccer, and football to kind of, make a plan. Okay, disperse, make a plan. Okay, disperse. Okay. And it's working really well.
Okay. And I was just curious too, like, since you have such a creative mind too, like, how do you take notes of like different ideas that come to mind? Do you have a process or like somewhere you jot down your notes?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I like, to the point that I think I've scared Mary Lou out of her mind. I write everything down. I have a OneNote for work that has like probably every email anybody's ever sent me, just so I have it on record and organized in a certain folder. And then I use, what's it called? The one with the elephant, Evernote.
Oh, Evernote.
for my personal notes. Those are my wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, need to type it in my phone real quick. Or if I'm really in the middle of a REM cycle, I'll just text myself. And then in the morning, I put it into Evernote.
Oh, wow. So some of your ideas come to you in like your dreams or your sleep?
It's so funny. I have the craziest things where I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and last night I had a dream about one of the key messages for our NFL campaign. And I didn't wake up and write it down, but I remembered it when I woke up, and I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I talk to so-and-so about that thing that I dreamt went wrong so that it doesn't go wrong. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Cause yeah, I was curious. I feel like I love to write notes, but sometimes it's hard to keep it organized. And
Yeah. I've tried just about everything. Asana is a little too cumbersome for me, like because I end up having so many tasks to write down.
okay. I just started using that actually for my role.
And then my husband got me this rocket book, which is really cool. And
Oh,
you write
yeah.
and take a picture,
Mhm.
but I write in all caps. So when I take a picture and it comes onto my computer, it's like everything's screaming at me. So
Oh my God. I love that.
yeah,
Oh, the Rocket Book is good. Yeah. I think Megan, she's a Rocket Book user too.
I like that one.
Nice. All right. And then next, what have you learned about leadership so far in your journey? And what's the biggest roadblock that you've hit so far?
Oh, I have been so fortunate to have bosses that I love and still talk to every day, like from every job I've had before this. And I think part of the reason that is because I'm very discerning, even when I'm like looking for a job. I mentioned this on a call yesterday. When I first got out of college, I had 2 job offers. I applied to 75 jobs. Then I ended up with 2 job offers, and one was nearly twice as much money. But I got like a weird feeling from the guys that I interviewed with. And then I had another role, less money, and I loved the 2 women that interviewed me, one of whom would be my boss, and the other was the HR director. And so I kind of trusted my gut. I made an Excel sheet. Don't worry, Mary Lou, if you're listening, I made an Excel sheet of all the pros and cons and ended up going with the one that I was more excited about, even though it was less money. And I was very fortunate to live with my parents, so I could make that sacrifice. My boss there was empowering, like did not micromanage. I ended up founding a new arm of the business while I was there, a branding studio for a billable arm of the department, because she saw that I wanted to do something and said, yeah, just go for it. I guess my point would be, if you're able to practice, and become the best at something, I'm not saying I'm the best at something, but you can get to the point where you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, and you can make that choice based on personality just as much as the job or the company or whatever it may be. So you're going to spend every day with those people. Like I used to spend more time with my coworker that I sat next to at 76 than I did with my husband. I sat next to him for 9 hours a day. Who do you spend that much time with? It better be somebody that you like and respects you and is open to hearing your ideas.
Definitely. And keep that excitement throughout the whole process. Yeah. Awesome. Well, good. I think that's all we have for questions. Shivy or Sydney, did you have any questions? The notes question is a personal question I had for you.
I have notes everywhere, Lid. I wish you could see my table right now.
Love it. I have this is my notebook I have right here.
Nice.
Yeah. But awesome. Well, I think I'll hand it off to Shivy then to wrap it up.
Yeah, of course. I asked that question about leadership, and it was an amazing answer. That's really great advice. But this entire webinar was really fantastic, and thank you so much again for coming and sharing your journey with everyone in the WIS Next Gen community. And then we hope everybody listening, either now on the webinar or hearing the recording later, we'll stay in touch with WIS Next Gen and listen to these interviews in our series, especially on our website. And then keep in touch and tell your friends about it and sign up to be in our WIS community at womeninsportstech.org. It's completely free, and you can also get our newsletters with all of the updates. And we hope you join all of us in the sports tech business one day. Thank you again, Jess. And
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
You're the best.
Oh, can we take a picture? I always ask
Mhm.
at the end. Yay.
Some cheese in. Ooh.
That's fine.
Yeah.
it's going to be like a really loud